On this episode, we're going to talk about an old bag. We're also going to talk about Madam. Happy birthday, Mike. One take.
No reaction. I saw Greg smiling and laughing, but
I was I was trying to keep a straight face because I am a professional.
you're a professional.
A professional.
See, now that I read that,
This is all staying in now. I'm sorry. We have to keep this in.
you have no argument from me, good sir.
I'm the one who edits it, so it's all my call.
Yeah.
All right.
Cue music.
An anthology about the bad, the short-lived, and the forgotten shows and events in television history. This is It Was a Thing on TV.
Punisher! Control! Help me before I change my mind!
I give you Super Train.
Episode 354, Submission 841, Madam's Place. Madam's Place aired in syndication from September 20th of 1982. Wiki says until February 23rd of 1983, but I've found evidence that it went well into March of 1983. Wiki also says it aired for 51 episodes. IMDb has 55 episodes, and if you go on YouTube, there are 55 episodes on there at least. So who knows what numbers work around here? It aired for half a season in 1982 and 83 for something like 55-ish episodes.
They often say she's an ageless wonder. Her lust for life makes this lady tick. When a young man looks at Madam, she just throws herself right at him. She's young at heart and still getting her kicks. And at Madam's Place, she's a primetime queen. She throws her stuff on a TV screen. Her outrageous charm fills this funny farm that we call Madam's Place. Here at Madam's Place, she's the perfect host. She rocks the airwaves from coast to coast. Her outrageous charm fills this funny farm that we call Madam's Place.
Do-do-do-do-do-do. They often say that she's an ageless wonder. Her lust for life makes this lady tick. When a young man looks at Madam, she just throws herself right at him. She's young at heart and still getting her kicks. And at Madam's Place, she's a primetime queen. She struts her stuff on a TV screen. Her
And here's Corey
outrageous
Feldman.
Damn it, you interrupted my beautiful rendition. All right.
Do that over.
So, this is all going to stay in. She struts her stuff on a TV screen. Her outrageous charm fills this funny farm that we call Madam's Place. Here at Madam's Place, she's the perfect host. She rocks the airwaves from coast to coast. Her outrageous charm fills this funny farm that we call Madam's Place. So a couple of notes about that theme song. First, believe it or not, they originally tried getting George Burns and Ethel Merman to sing it.
What?
Are you kidding me?
Truth from the writer of the theme, Michael Miller. They tried to get George Burns and Ethel Merman to sing the theme, but they were already booked at the time when they needed them to record the theme. Very true story. And also, the first verse That isn't the original first verse from the theme song. Again, from Michael Miller, who wrote this theme. He said that Paramount wanted to change it a little bit because it might offend old people. Here's the original first verse. You judge for yourself how offensive it is. They say that she's a geriatric wonder with an ever-active hunger for a thrill. When a young man looks at Madam, she just throws herself right at him. She's young at heart, not yet over the hill. Here at Madam's place, she's a prime time. No, I'm not going to do it again. But yeah, so the original version, she's a geriatric wonder. I didn't know that might offend older people, but hey, it possibly might have. Maybe older people didn't like being called geriatrics in 1982. I don't know.
Doesn't really sound like it could be offensive. I guess somebody at Paramount got a little bit skittish.
Well, I think maybe there's a difference between geriatric and ageless. I don't know. However, we're not here to talk about the theme song, not for the entire episode. We're here to talk about this show. It is my pick for my Money in the Bank this year because later this weekend, I am becoming a year older, and maybe this time I'll become a year wiser. And I decided to pick this show because I remember seeing this back on USA in the day. This was not really fair. That should have been seen in the daytime, which is when I remember it airing back around like 1986. This is definitely fair for at night. What the show's about, it's about Madam. And if you don't know who Madam is, Waylon Flowers, one of probably the top puppeteers, comedians of the 70s, he had a puppet named Madam, and they did the rounds. They were on the Hollywood squares. They did Vegas. They were a known entity. This wasn't just some fly-by-night person. They developed a show regarding this character, Madam, and it was very much like, in my opinion, kind of like Mary Hartman, kind of like Soap in the sense that, yes, it's an episodic TV show, but there's serial continuity throughout each episode. So as like, when you saw Soap, you heard Rod Roddy say, on the last episode of Soap or coming up in the next episode of Soap, and they sort of tie it together so you don't have separate plots. You guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good. So that was sort of the way this show aired. It was episodic, but at the same time, it was very serial at points. It wasn't entirely serial. There's some episodes that went way off course. They were not serial at all. They were very fictitious, to say the least. I could probably use a better word than that, but they were fictitious at the least. So the show revolves around Madam and her world. The people that work for her, the people that live with her in her mansion. Oh, and by the way, did we mention that this mansion is so large, there's a TV studio in it?
That's a big mansion.
That's a really big mansion. It has a TV studio in it. Don't know if the producer, the cameraman live there. There is a studio where she records her talk show titled, believe it or not, Madam's Place. And the show just follows the antics of the house and also the antics of the TV show. Nothing terribly genius about it. It's a very lighthearted show, but also at the same time, just warning everybody, it's not for the kids. There may be a puppet involved. It is a very ribald TV show. Very double entendre laden, very sexually laden. We'll get into some reasons why in a little bit. There's two primary reasons. You'll get them really fast when we talk about them. So as I said, Waylon Flowers, He voiced Madam. He was never on the show itself. He was just the man behind the legend, the man behind the woman, I believe is actually how they phrase it in the opening credits. Playing the butler on the show, named Walter Pinkerton, is Johnny Hamer. Where you might know Johnny Hamer from, he was in 20 episodes of MASH playing Sergeant Zelmo Zale. He also voiced a number of Transformers on the original TV version of Transformers. Swindle, Vortex, Highbrow. He also did voices for Alvin and the Chipmunks back in the early to mid 80s. No longer with us, unfortunately. He passed away in 1989. However, one credit that I didn't know about, that I've never even heard of, he was apparently an announcer on a couple of game shows. He was, according to IMDb, take this for what it's worth, he was a substitute host on Baffle for 2 episodes. Didn't know that. Maybe Dick Enberg got a little busy during baseball season. Who knows?
Yeah, I could see Dick Enberg traveling from field to field, having to, cover the games for NBC.
And another one. Again, I don't remember this. I don't even think there's evidence out there. He was an announcer on previous installment, Your Number's Up. I'm doing a shoulder shrug here because I didn't know that until I saw this on IMDb doing research for this episode. Playing Bernadette Van Gilder, who is Madam's secretary, is Susan Tolsky. Susan Tolsky, you may remember from the TV series Here Comes the Brides, 47 episodes back in the late 60s, early 70s. She played Aunt Janie on Pepper Ann. There's a flashback, Pepper Ann. She voiced Miss Orso on Bobby's World. There's another flashback. That's great. She's also known for other voices, Darkwing Duck, Tailspin, The Smurfs, Foofer. I can't believe I just made a Foofer reference.
Foofer is awesome. I love Foofer.
And she also is not with us any longer.
Yeah, didn't she die last year?
Susan Tolsky did die on October 9th of 2022 at age 79. Playing the next door neighbor, Buzzy St. James. He only appeared in a number of episodes. I want to say of the 55 or so, he may have been in about 10 at most. And he was only credited, again, maybe in like the first 10, 15 episodes. Then they redid like the entire opening sequence because I don't know if he was written off or what have you. He wasn't like killed off. I don't think you want to kill a little kid in this case. But playing Buzzy St. James, the one and only Corey Feldman.
And really, what hasn't he done? I mean, talk about License to Drive. He was the voice of Donatello in the original TMNT movie.
And as we all know, License to Drive is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Archies, come back! Come back! Come back!
He was in the Goonies, Greg.
Yeah, that's right.
Which means he was in the Goonies Are Good Enough movie / video.
The music, yeah, the video.
With Cyndi Lauper and all of the big heels and big faces of the WWE in the 1980s.
Yeah. And then Andre the Giant shows up at the end and everyone has a good time.
And Greg, Corey Feldman had a card in Americana.
He did.
He did, yes.
He did.
He actually had what looks like a dual autograph with Corey Haim. You had the two Coreys on the same card.
Oh,
Did you
that's
pull that card?
fantastic.
No, I just saw a listing for it for like $600 because, Corey Haim isn't signing any more autographs, sadly.
Wow. He was on an episode of Previous Entry Greg the Bunny. He played Corey Feldman.
Oh, what a stretch. Corey Feldman played a character named Corey Feldman.
Playing the niece of Madam, Sarah Joy Pitts. I told you there's a couple reasons that this was a little ribbo, a little racy. Judy Landers. And I just want to get this off my chest, no pun intended. Judy Landers on this series, they liked showing her breasts. She was wearing exercise equipment, leotards, bathing suits, bikinis, Tarzan outfits. Whatever they could do to show off the cleavage, they did it. I can't say I complained, but they did it. They were very evidently trying to get the sex factor there. And of course, Judy Landers, oh my gosh, where hasn't she been? I mean, first off, she is absolutely one of the most beautiful, most gorgeous women, maybe of all time. Definitely from the 80s and 70s. But she was like everywhere back in the 70s and 80s. BJ and the Bear. Vegas, Fantasy Island. If she did Fantasy Island, I'm sure she did Love Boat. Yeah, she did 8 episodes of Love Boat. She was on 3 separate episodes of Night Court, including one where she played Dan Fielding's date. That's great. John Larroquette and Judy Landers. Is there a better combination? I'll take that as a no. That is the perfect combination.
There is no better combination.
And I think I'd be remiss if we didn't mention that she was on 3 separate weeks of the Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour.
You know what else she was in? She was on 1 episode of the new Love American Style.
Oh, that's terrific. The new Love American Style. Because I've said on this podcast many times how much I love the new Love American Style. Because it's not the old Love American Style. Because that show, that sucks. Nobody cares about that. It's all about the new Love American Style.
And something I learned about Judy Landers, she was actually trained musically at Juilliard. I did not know that.
You know what I didn't know? I didn't know that on separate weeks of Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour, you had Twyla Littleton and Judy Landers with the 36s.
Oh, baby.
Oh, jeez.
They're gorgeous.
Well, you know, I'm not going to be here for much longer on this episode, so might as well get it on with it. So,
oh, sorry to lose you, Greg.
yeah, well, unfortunately, I'm not going to be here much on this episode, but I did bring somebody along for this episode, and so hold on a second. Let me introduce him right now. He's got his own theme music. All right, everybody. Let's welcome the newest member of the It Was a Thing on TV recurring characters, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for the G-Man.
Is that the G-Man's music?
Oh, yeah, it's the G-Man's music, baby. Yeah.
He's always taking care of business.
That's right, I'm taking care of business. I'm so excited, guys. It's my first time on this show. How you guys doing?
Oh my gosh, I can't go on. Greg has broken me.
Who's this Greg you're talking about?
I'm sorry. The G-Man.
The G-Man has broken the show.
I'm sorry.
I was about to explain how Judy Landers was married to the guy who gave up the game-winning home run to Ozzie Smith in the 1985 National League Championship Series.
Oh yeah, Ozzie Smith, Wizard of Oz, baby.
But I am befuddled, y'all. I am befuddled.
I did not know that she was married to Tom Niedenfuhr. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I know who he is. I've seen that name in baseball. I just can't pronounce names that have like 6.
Well, you know why he can't pronounce his name? Because he probably sucked.
He did give up the game-winning home run of the 85 NLCS to Ozzie Smith, after all.
Yeah, how could he give up a home run to Ozzie Smith? He has hit, like, what, 4 home runs in his entire life?
He's a better fielder than he is a hitter.
Hey, he does have a World Series ring. He won one in 1981.
It was 82, silly.
It says 81 on Wikipedia.
Well, Wikipedia's lying. It was 1982.
Who played in the World Series in 1982? We just talked about it.
St. Louis and Milwaukee.
Yeah, and he won a World Series with the Dodgers, you dingus.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Ozzie Smith.
Oh, my God.
Children, separate corners.
Okay, no. Well, first off, I'm sure the G-Man does not like being addressed as a child.
That's right. I'm like 62 years old.
Well, I
Fun
did say
fact,
we
I
were
used to
about...
run. Hold on. Fun fact, I used to run the skate shop in Skate or Die on the NES.
Show us your Marine tattoo.
Skate or Die, that's a deep cut. Oh my
Yes,
God.
the skate shop owner has a Marine tattoo. You hover over it, it says, Semper Fi or die.
Yeah, that's right. That's how he lives his life, baby. But he doesn't live his life quite as extreme as the G-Man.
All right, moving on as fast as we can possibly get.
Yes, please.
We had a television producer for the Madam's Place show that didn't appear all that often. He appeared on what appears to be about 15 episodes, give or take. And the producer's name was Barney Wolf. And Barney Wolf was played by Ty Henderson. Ty Henderson, we talked about this, I think, a week or two ago, this series. He played the voice of Super Stretch in the cartoon Tarzan and the Super 7 from 1978.
Talked about it last week, actually.
I knew it sounded familiar. He was also in Space Academy, which, if you remember going back to Jason of Star Command, that was sort of like the prequel series to Jason of Star Command. Also was on Room 222. Not with us. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2018 at the age of 64. So as you can tell, the cast is pretty stacked. No pun intended, with all due respect to Judy Landers. Let's get into the episodes. There's a lot of guests here. And again, we have 55-ish episodes, so we got a lot of covering to do. We'll start off with the first episode, which is basically your expository episode. We're introduced to the characters in Madam's life as she prepares for the latest taping of her syndicated TV talk show. At the end of this hectic day, Madam's niece, Sarah Joy, arrives from their native Georgia, determined to crack show business and requesting that her aunt put her up until she does. Spoiler, Auntie Madam does. We got a name in this episode. Playing Larry Lunch. Larry Lunch is Madam's agent, and he's going to make a couple of appearances on this series. John Machida.
He talks very, very quickly.
Oh, yeah, it's the Micro Machines guy. Yeah, I love the Micro Machines guy.
He's the FedEx guy, too.
Yeah, he's a FedEx guy, but I know him a lot as the Micro Machines guy. All the kids love the Micro Machines guy.
Also, he was in that one commercial, that speed rating commercial for the 90s infomercials we talked about a few months ago. The fastest talker in the world?
Against the fastest reader in the world.
Supposedly. I'm sorry. You wag your finger down a book, that doesn't mean you're reading fast. I'm sorry. John Machida still got smoked by the speed reader.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, but you can only say so many words. Going on to episode 2, and these don't have any titles, so it's just episode 1, episode 2, episode 3, so on and so forth. Sarah Joy begins pounding the pavement in Hollywood. After being sawed in half by the world's most incompetent magician, Madam finds herself the surprise honoree on This Is Your Life. Not really This Is Your Life. Can't use that name, obviously. It's a show like This Is Your Life. And you won't believe who the host of this show was. And it was done right on Madam's set. And actually, this was done when she was sawed in half during the magic trick. Playing Biff Willis, this host, Jeff Edwards.
He is no longer with us. Just a legendary host and actor as a host.
And I think you mentioned previously that he was an alumnus of Duke.
He was indeed an alumnus of Duke, but he was my friend anyway.
And I know that pains you saying something good about a Dookie. I apologize.
Like I said, he was my friend anyway.
Fair enough. Episode 3. A neighborhood boy whom Madam once babysat returns to visit her, but he has grown into a popular television evangelist. He tries to save Madam's soul while she tries to get him back in the bathtub. That ain't holy water in there, TV evangelist.
Wait a minute. How can he save Madam's soul? It's obviously wood.
Wood doesn't have a soul?
Can't you feel a tree's pain, G-Man?
I'm going to take G-Man's silence as no.
No.
We do have 2 names, and actually one of them is a occasionally recurring character playing the TV evangelist. We've talked about him in the past. You may not remember the name, Rod McCary. He was Gorgeous George on The Cool Kids.
He was indeed gorgeous.
Well, remember, he had some infighting with the Cool Kids on that show, and yeah, he was on 3 episodes of that.
Yeah. He also played a minister in the Stir Crazy movie. So I have to ask, is this typecasting?
Now, you see, the G-Man, this is his first time to the show. He doesn't know about these recurring little things.
No,
So,
I don't.
No. And also, no, this is not typecasting based on what he's done previously.
Is this typecasting?
What's this I hear about somebody loving the show Wings?
It made Tony Shalhoub's career, and that's all you need to know.
You must be totally new to this podcast, G-Man.
Oh no, this guy Greg told me about. Oh hey, do you want to host this podcast for like an hour or 2? And I was like, oh sure, I got nothing better to do.
Nothing better to do than f my birthday episode. Cool.
Hold on, apparently he was pissed. He told me something about the Hudson Brothers Razzle Dazzle. I don't know what the hell that is, but it probably sucked.
Don't worry, none of us know what the heck the Hudson Brothers Razzle Dazzle show was.
We're just going to pretend it doesn't exist.
And also, getting back to Chico's main question there about the typecasting, Gorgeous George was not a preacher in any way. So, just throwing that out there.
Okay.
But I do want to add another character, and this is a semi-recurring character playing Mr. Honest. Mr. Honest gives off real big Mr. Rogers vibes. See, now you know who we're talking about there, what type of character Mr. Honest is. He was played by Don Sparks. Where you might know Don Sparks from, he's been on a little bit of everything for many, many, many years. 8 episodes of LA Law.
Oh, he was on LA Law. I loved LA Law. You know what my favorite moment of LA Law was, guys?
Oh no. Oh no.
My favorite episode of LA Law was when that woman fell down that elevator shaft. Oh, it was hilarious.
Oh, well, we're legally obligated to play it.
I really don't want to talk about it.
Oh my God!
I'm so glad you have that clip, guys.
He was also on 10 episodes of Operation Petticoat. Still with us.
Yeah. I imagine Operation Petticoat is a future cover.
Oh, I would just about guarantee it. We're going to go to episode 4 now. Bernadette books a ladies' marching band on the show without Madam's approval. Buzz and Sarah Joy submit Pinkerton's diary for publication, which divulges his long-ago affair with Madam. When the book sells, Pinkerton is torn between the generous cash advance and his loyalty to Madam.
Oh my.
So wait, I got an observation here. If he had an affair with Madam, does that mean that she gave him wood and he gave her wood?
Good night, everybody.
Just something to think about.
Hey, what guy does in his bedroom his own business?
Until Judy Landers sells the diary to a publisher, sure. No names on this episode, so we're going to go to episode 5. A rash of robberies in the neighborhood leads Madam to install a home security system. Unfortunately, as she's testing it out, a metal cage descends upon her from above and locks her in. 15 minutes before she's due on stage. Hey, G-Man, can you do uh-oh for us?
Oh, I don't know how to. Okay, let me just. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Close enough. Nobody of note in that episode, so we're going to go to episode 6. No sooner does Solaria, a psychic, predict that Madam is fated to have a baby than a bundle of joy is found on the doorstep of the mansion. Solaria is actually a recurring character, doesn't appear in many episodes, maybe like 6 or 7, and she's played by the one and only Edie McClurg.
The lovely and talented Edie McClurg.
We've all heard of Edie McClurg. Obviously, she was in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. She played the school secretary. That's probably her biggest role. She was on Valerie's Family, the Harper Family, the Hogan Family, whatever it was called whenever you decide to watch, since it changed names more often than some people changed their drawers. But yeah, you know who she is. She's one of those character actresses that just like transcends time. She's just excellent. And playing the network executive, this person was actually on the first episode, but I neglected to mention him. And again, an occasionally occurring character, somebody from the network. R. Ray Randall is played by Chandler Garrison. Not much of a career. He did 5 episodes of Madam's Place, according to IMDb, and then an episode of Knight Rider as a butler, and something called Frankenstein's Great Aunt Tilly. I'm not even going to ask about that. That sounds really, really, really bizarre. Maybe even too bizarre for this podcast.
That's pretty bizarre.
I didn't know that Frankenstein had an Uncle Tilly. The things you learn around here.
Oh, that's surprising. I can't believe Dr. Frankenstein. He had an uncle and an aunt.
Moving on to episode 7. It's Dueling Divas when guest star Debbie Reynolds does a life-size impersonation of Madam on the show. Sarah Joy admits that the baby found on Madam's doorstep is hers, and the need to earn money leads her to accept a role in a pornographic film.
Oh my.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a deeper story here, which we're going to get into in a few episodes. But like I said, Debbie Reynolds, she played herself in this episode. And again, Debbie Reynolds, absolute legend. Carrie Fisher's mom. I mean, that's really all you need is right there. Episode 8, continuing in this sort of serialization, the continuity, as it were. Madam and Bernadette have a falling out after Solaria conducts a seance to make contact with Bernadette's deceased husband. Sarah Joy reveals that she is not the true mother of the infant found on Madam's doorstep. See, I told you it was not her baby. You won't believe whose baby it is, though. So Sarah Joy reveals that she's not the mother of the infant found on the doorstep and that she has been protecting the baby's real mother, a friend of hers from Georgia. And playing the friend from Georgia, Patty Sue, podcast favorite, Bonnie Urseth.
Wait a minute. Are you talking about the Bonnie Ursef who was a nun in that Punky Brewster episode?
I was talking about the one on We Got It Made, but yeah, one and the same. And also, as we all know, she was on a couple weeks of Match Game Hollywood Scores Hour. And Solaria returns in this episode too. So we have another Edie McClurg sighting. Episode 9. As the standoff between Madame and Bernadette rages on, the household falls into disarray. Sarah Joy's friend, Patty Sue, takes ownership of the infant found on Madame's doorstep and heads back to Dawson, Georgia. On her show, Madame spotlights a Japanese comedian who does uncanny impressions of Leslie Caron, Hermione Gingold, Katharine Hepburn, Sandra Dee, and Shirley Temple. And, this doesn't age well because this person would be canceled out for portraying a Japanese impressionist. But it's somebody that we've talked about. Playing Sonoko. That's her name. Like the gasoline brand, but spelled Sonoko. Sonoko. Again, we've talked about her plenty in the past. Great character actress, Lynn Marie Stewart. We talked about her on Nightstand with Dick Dietrich. She plays Charlie's mom on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Has the G-Man ever seen It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
I think the G-Man has lived It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
That's right, baby. I've lived all the episodes of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. That's right. No little known fact, I was right there when I saw Rudy Giuliani's hair dye trip. I was right with the press. Don't ask me how I got in, but I got a front row seat to that. It was amazing.
I'm not going to.
Also, if you don't know her from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, I guarantee you would know her as Miss Yvonne on Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Oh, the G-Man, he digs Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Hey, that's not going to be the only mention of Pee-wee's Playhouse in this episode. We're going to hear about it at least 2 more times.
Okay. Well, I got a question about Pee-wee's Playhouse. Why was the king of cartoons the king of cartoons? Because every time he brought out a cartoon on Pee-wee's Playhouse, it always sucked.
Well,
it was a public domain cartoon.
Well, that, but also not every cartoon is necessarily a winner. I mean, I may be the king of whatever, but you got to have some bad stuff there. I may be the king of baseball cards, but you know what? I probably have a Tom Niederfuhr card hiding somewhere. Maybe only Junie Landers cares about it. I don't know. Not everything from the King cartoons can be a winner. Sorry.
Well, that's fine.
I appreciate you are accepting my excuse. Thank you. Episode 10, Madame and Bernadette reconcile. Oh, good. They're not fighting anymore. And the household returns to order until Madame becomes indisposed, at which point a scramble ensues to find a substitute host for that evening's show. With all of Tinseltown RSVP'd to a party hosted by Sammy Davis Jr., Madame prepares Bernadette to take center stage. We have Ty Henderson appearing in this episode, and also we have Chandler Garrison appearing in this episode. So, again, some recurring characters there.
I'm just trying to imagine Susan Kolsky fitting in Madame's chair.
Would it be a short chair?
It would almost have to be.
Because obviously Madame's like a puppet.
Well, if Madame sits in a wooden chair, isn't that like sitting on her ancestors' bodies?
You're right. Kind of would be offensive.
No more offensive than Lynn Stewart playing a Japanese lady.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, it is kind of creepy when you think about it that way. Going on to episode 11. Concerned over Buzzy's adolescent crush on Sarah Joy. Oh, there's the hormones kicking in. Madam intervenes with the boys' self-involved showbiz parents, but her plan backfires when Buzzy runs away. Anthony Newley appears on Madam's show, where the two duet to the Candyman.
Oh, the Candyman. I love that song.
That's a nice song.
Oh, yeah, it's my favorite. Willy Wonka. And Sammy Davis Jr. sang that song.
I like the Sammy Davis Jr. version better.
Yeah,
That's
right.
just me.
Yeah.
No, it isn't just you. I agree with all that.
The goddamn Candyman's in the house, brother.
Well, we talked about Anthony Newley, but there is another name in this episode. Playing Carlos St. James, E.J. Peeker.
E.J. Peeker, what a name.
You're right. E.J. Peeker is a great name. She was a woman who was on a lot of things in the 70s. She was on 7 separate episodes of the OG Love American Style.
Oh, the OG Love American Style. You know what? I love the OG Love American Style.
Yeah, not the new Love American Style.
Oh, yeah, the new Love American Style. That sucks.
Boy, if Greg was here, he'd be upset because he thinks the new Love American Style is where it's at.
Oh, does he? Well, he's fucking wrong.
Oh, no.
Well, we'll hear from him in next episode, assuming he returns. And also, she was on 26 episodes, which is presumably the entire series of something from 1968 and 1969 called That's Life. Episode 12. After winning the Irish sweepstakes, an eccentric, formerly homeless woman named Cora moves in next door to Madam. When the snooty neighbors protest, Madam goes the Pygmalion route to teach Cora how to behave like a lady of means. I don't think Cora's going to be taught any way of being a lady of means. Just saying. And interestingly enough, on this episode, someone is playing Bette Midler on this episode. I'm going to guess it's a drag thing because the person playing Bette Midler is Kenny Saka. And actually, you want, is this typecasting, Chico?
He played a female impersonator in American Playhouse, and he played Bette Midler lookalike in an episode of Simon and Simon, and he played a female impersonator in Bette Midler's The Rose.
So again, the question comes up. Is this typecasting?
This is definitely typecasting.
Oh, I absolutely agree with you on that.
Oh, it sure as hell is typecasting.
Absolutely. And also, he was on an episode of Married with Children when Al's barber dies. He plays not necessarily a barber, but like a hairdresser, an effeminate hairdresser. Not trying to stereotype here. And Al, let's just say he's not happy with his new unmanly haircut. Peg loves it, though. Makes fun of it quite a bit. And he's not with us any longer. He unfortunately passed away in 1992.
At the way too young age of 39.
Moving on to episode 13. To boost ratings, Madam sponsors an on-air Marry Madam contest to find the man who will become her 7th husband. An extremely talkative Charles Nelson Riley pays a visit to Madam's show, barely letting her get a word in edgewise. I think we all know who's playing Charles Nelson Riley in this episode. Charles Nelson Riley. We all know who he is. But playing Dwayne Kellogg in this episode is William Bogart. I'm sure we've talked about him in the past. His name sounds familiar.
Yeah. William Bogart, he was Brandon Brindle on Small Wonder. He was also part of... Now, Greg, you don't... No, Greg...
Mr. G-Man! Come on!
I got my things mixed up here.
He's not here, you silly.
You just said Greg again! Oh my...
Let me try this again. Let me try this again.
Okay, hit the reset button.
Okay. Now, G-Man, Greg's favorite Dave Chappelle sketch is the White Klansman, or the Black Klansman.
Oh, the Clayton Bigsby sketch? Yeah.
Clayton Bigsby, yes. William Bogart was basically known for that sketch.
Yes.
So you have seen it.
Oh, yes, I've seen all the episodes of Chappelle's Show.
Okay, then. All right.
And
So we're all on theme. Awesome.
And we previously talked about him because he was on an episode of Here's Boomer. Going on to episode 14. Bernadette Pinkerton and Sarah Joy take an instant dislike to Madam's new fiancé, but when Madam remains blind to his mercenary nature, they conspire to reveal his true colors. That might be William Bogart, from what I can tell. Potentially. We do have a name in this episode, and G-Man, I'm going to apologize in advance. Since you're new to the show, you may not know how we handle certain celebrities on this podcast. Playing himself in this episode is
Mr. Black.
Jay Leno.
Nothing.
I think he's just in total shock over the concept of Mr. Black.
I don't know what you're talking about Mr. Black.
It's way too complicated to explain to you.
Okay.
In the very limited time that we have.
Maybe it's best if we just move on to episode 15. When Madam and conman Dwayne Kellogg elope to Mexico, Pinkerton, Sarah Joy, and Bernadette spring into action to stop the wedding before it's too late. The outspoken Mr. Honest fills in for Madam on her show while she's away. Again, William Bogart appears as Dwayne Kellogg, the fiancé con man. So no wonder they have their suspicions because he's not a very good man. Mr. Honest is on the show again, as we mentioned. But playing a holistic doctor on this episode, who is in the Madam's Place talk show doing a segment on holistic medicine, John Paragon. Second reference to Pee-wee's Playhouse because John Paragon was Jambi.
I can see it.
Jambi, yeah. The genie whose head was in the box, and yeah. Everybody knows Jambi, if you remember Pee-wee's Playhouse. Maybe the G-Man didn't wake up that early on Saturday mornings.
No, I was too busy running the skate shop.
I'm sorry, G-Man. I thought you were going to say you were too busy partying on Friday nights that you slept in late on Saturday mornings.
Oh, yeah, I was partying hard. I was drinking all the booze.
He was also the voice of Terry the Pterodactyl on Pee-wee's Playhouse. In fact, he was in the Groundlings with Paul Rubens and Phil Hartman. He also played Richard Fletcher on UHF.
Episode 16, depressed and behaving erratically in the wake of her ruptured engagement to Dwayne Kellogg, Madam refuses professional help until Bernadette engages celebrity psychologist Dr. Joyce Brothers on her show. Madam introduced comics Fred Willard and Dave Workman. Believe it or not, appearing as themselves on this episode, Joyce Brothers, Fred Willard, and David Workman.
Really? I cannot believe they all played themselves.
I mean, it literally was just in that capsule I read. Joyce Brothers, we all know her from basically being the first person to be famous for being herself, for being a non-actor, for winning on the $64,000 question. Fred Willard, one of the funniest people ever. Fernwood Tonight, America Tonight. We talked about him in Sorota's Court, Roseanne. The list goes on and on. I think he was also in like Best of Show, I believe.
Best in Show, yeah. He wasn't Best in Show, but hey, guys, you know he was the president of the By and Large Corporation in Wally?
I think I've heard that.
Yeah.
And David Workman hasn't done a whole heck of a lot. He did some voices on a couple of episodes of Transformers, but that's pretty much it. Episode 17. Dr. Joyce Brothers continues her in-depth analysis of Madam, which reveals a long-standing pattern of choosing the wrong men in her life. Pinkerton comes clean with Madam about his feelings for her, 25 years after their breakup.
I got a question, guys. How would that work, being married to like a wooden puppet?
I don't know the legalities surrounding that, so I can't tell you.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Episode 18. Against her better judgment, Madam allows a vitriolic reporter to follow her with a camera for a TV expose that completely misrepresents her. Inebriated comic Foster Brooks unexpectedly wanders onto the stage of Madam's show. And guess what? Foster Brooks is in this episode. I know, it was just like literally right there. I just said it like 10 seconds ago.
But is he really inebriated?
No, that's all a shtick, believe it or not. His drunkenness is all just an act. It's all a ruse. From what I've read, he did not drink in real life, or at least didn't drink excessively like his personas you may see on TV. Episode 19. A famous Italian director asks Madam to appear in his latest film, which leads her to question staying in television. Madam spars with guest star Betty White on her show. Who would want to fight Betty White? Why would anybody fight Betty White?
Oh no, I wouldn't dare fight Betty White. I mean, she's Betty White.
Exactly.
No, the G-Man wouldn't mess with Betty White.
No, because the G-Man would probably end up as that person that got banged to death by Rose that one time. You mess with me, kiddo, I'm going to kill you. Bang, 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 dead. Something like that. Hey, playing the Italian director, Federico Fellini. Boy, I wonder who they're trying to mock there. Maybe Fellini? Just saying. A name. We've talked about him plenty of times. TV legend, Ronnie Shell. Gomer Pyle.
Fun fact. Are you a fan of the Shirt Tails? He was the voice of Rick, the raccoon.
I'm sure the G-Man loves Shirt Tails. And also still with us at the age of 91.
Wow, God bless him.
Well, that's great. His heart's still ticking. I appreciate that. G-Man appreciates the fact that he's still with us at 91.
Episode 20. Tab Hunter is interviewed by Madam in her eponymous talk show, and she confuses him with other famous 1950 heartthrob actors and cannot name any of his movies. Madam, it's called research.
It's a sad thing IMDb did not exist in the 1980s.
You're very correct about that. And of course, playing himself is Tab Hunter, heartthrob from the 50s. He was on Match Game and Match Game PM back in 1978. All right, moving on. Episode 21. Madam's neighbors launch a petition to prevent her from running her show on their street, and Madam finds an unlikely ally in an awkward, introverted inventor. And I think I know who the introverted inventor is. And it's a name that we've mentioned, and this may be solidifying a Hall of Fame case. Playing Pinhead Flanagan. I don't know if Pinhead would be an inventor's name, but regardless, playing Pinhead Flanagan in this episode, Mickey Jones. We've talked about Mickey Jones many times. We talked about him in Ace Crawford, Private Eye. We talked about him in the pilot of Misfits of Science. We talked about him on Married with Children, where he played Parley Rockefeller, an auto mechanic. And also we've talked about him. He was an occasional character on Home Improvement. He looks like the type of person that would be on Home Improvement. So, makes sense. Also not with us. He passed away in 2018. Episode 22. A dip in Madam's ratings indicates that she has fallen out of touch with the youth market. Feeling past her prime, Madam goes punk and takes part in a youth protest. I have stuff to say. I saw this episode. She goes punk and actually performs punk music or punk-ish music on her show. The band she performs with is called Drool. I'm guessing maybe sort of an homage / takeoff of Kiss. Even though she doesn't dress up in the full regalia, makeup, and whatnot, she just wears a rainbow wig. But the one song they perform, and remember, this is 1982. The previous year, one of the big songs was Betty Davis Eyes by Kim Carnes. Drool and Madam performed the song, and I can't believe I'm saying this, Barbara Streisand's Nose.
Oh.
G-Man's got to dig the cleverness of that.
Oh my god.
I'm just the messenger. I don't approve of that. And I was sort of taken aback when I heard that. But again, that was 41 years ago. It was a different time.
It was a different time. Different time and a place.
Moving on quickly to episode 23, Madam decides the only way to recapture her beauty is to undergo cosmetic surgery. She and Pinkerton then concoct a ruse that will allow her recuperation time without anyone discovering what she's done. In response, the household leaps to the conclusion that Madam is on her deathbed. If she got cosmetic surgery, wouldn't that just be as simple as like taking a sander or some sandpaper to her face? Just saying.
Is that the process? How they do it?
Well, she's a doll. She's a puppet. She's made out of wood.
Yeah, I know. So wouldn't they just be sanding her face?
That's what I'm saying.
I didn't want to say it, but yeah.
Makes the most sense. Solaria returns in this episode. So that's Edie McClurg as the psychic. Episode 24. Solaria tries to hypnotize Madam out of a debilitating bout of insomnia, which causes Madam to fall into a post-hypnotic trance while interviewing a prominent women's rights activist. Playing that women's rights activist, Gloria Beecham Mead, is Eileen Graff. Mr. Belvedere, everybody.
The G-Man loved Mr. Belvedere.
Who didn't love Mr. Belvedere? That was a great show. And also a top-notch pyramid player back in the day. And again, Edie McClurg returns as Solaria. John Machida returns as Larry Lunch. We're almost halfway there, guys. Episode 25. When Barney is fired from Adam's place, his replacement is a cutting-edge Canadian producer whose run of controversial adversarial guests nearly drives Madam off the air. Nobody of note in that episode, so we're going to just move on to episode 26. Madam hosts a reunion for one of the Whoopee girls from her speakeasy days, but the down-on-her-luck former vaudevillian likes mansion living so much that she shows no signs of leaving. Madam welcomes fellow Southerner Tony Tennille to the show, but all of her questions pertain solely to the captain. Obviously, Tony Tennille is on this episode. Captain Tennille, as you could probably infer from that description.
I got a question, Mike.
Yeah.
What made the Captain Tennille a captain?
What gave Captain Crunch the title captain?
I know, but at least he came up into the naval rank, and he was probably like Private Crunch. He worked his way up to Captain Crunch. But the captain, he's just called the captain. Like, did he start out as the private?
If I ever get into pornos, you've given me my name that I'm going to use. I'm going to be Private Crunch. At this point, Tony Tennille was still married to the captain, Daryl Dragon. They were actually married up until 2014. So yeah, I can understand why Madam may want to get the dirt on the captain, but not happening.
By the way, to answer your question, G-Man, the hat. The hat made the captain.
Oh,
I was going to answer that. I thought maybe the hat might make him the captain. Good call.
So just because he wears a hat, he's the captain.
Now you get it.
Okay, I get it. G-Man digs that. G-Man digs hats.
Episode 27. After spending her life savings to record a single, Sarah Joy quits her job to pursue a full-time singing career. When Madam rebukes her rash decision, her discouraged niece packs her bags and heads home to Georgia, until Bernadette hears the record, which prompts Madam to introduce Sarah Joy on her show. This is like the second or third time she's threatened to go back home to Georgia. Maybe she needs to get a thicker skin or something like that. Hey, appearing as themselves, presumably on the talk show, Phyllis Diller.
Legend.
Nothing else really needs to be said. You're absolutely right about that. But she did a couple weeks of Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour, so yeah. Episode 28, when Madam is chosen Woman of the Year by the Fine Arts Guild, Bernadette and Pinkerton move into damage control mode as the Guild reserves the right to withdraw the nomination if the recipient behaves in an undignified manner. Once it commences, the award ceremony devolves into a bona fide roast of Madam. Hilarity ensues.
And they were worried about Madam misbehaving.
She's getting a little bit of her own medicine. Episode 29. Sarah Joy wants Madam to back the production of an esoteric play written by her untalented boyfriend from acting class. Glamorous Ava Gabor guest stars on Madam's place, resulting in a fashionista duel between the two divas. Yeah, I could see that happening. Playing the untalented boyfriend from acting class is John Sanderford.
Zach Morris's daddy.
Zach Morris's daddy. Good call. Also was a regular on Ryan's Hope for a number of episodes. Well over 100. But Zach Morris's daddy. That's all we need to say. Episode 30. A freak snowstorm brings Hollywood to its knees during sweeps week, forcing Madam to put her staff and family to work on that evening's show. So you had presumably Judy Landers, Sarah Joy working on the show. Larry Lunch also makes an appearance on this episode. Madam's agent, maybe he has to help out too. And it's kind of interesting because as of the time we're recording this, in case you guys haven't heard, there's a lot of snowfall in Southern California.
But it doesn't snow in Southern California.
They're getting snow in the Mojave Desert. They're getting snow in San Diego. So don't say it never snows.
It's snowing in Southern California.
It is, apparently. Episode 31. Sarah Joy hopes to make the Olympics gymnastics team. Oh, great. Another reason to show off her cleavage. Put her in a leotard and let her tumble. Madam's former producer sues her for firing him, giving her subpoena through a dog act on the air, but her longtime attorney appears to have entered senility. Playing a judge in this episode, presumably for the whole subpoena thing, a name we've talked about, maybe making a case for the Hall of Fame, Earl Bowen.
No, he's in. If not this year, then definitely next year.
Oh, like I said, he is making that case. He is definitely making that case. And unfortunately, just passed away about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, January 5th of 2023. Episode 32. Sarah Joy promotes the career of a juggling street performer. Madam's trial continues, with the plaintiff threatening blackmail with a videotape from her foray into pornography. What? Madam did pornography?
Why not? Madam's done everything else.
Oh, God, now I'm blinded by the thought of that. Well, I mean, you can't see my eyes because you got these sunglasses, but trust me, guys, my eyes are just blinded by the thought of Madam doing pornography.
Earl Bowen returns in this episode as Judge Blake. Episode 33, Sarah Joy takes the stand on Madam's behalf as the trial draws to a conclusion. Moving on to episode 34. When Sarah Joy ends her courtship with a love 'em and leave 'em nude artist model, Solaria sets her up with her nephew, Pee Wee Herman.
Solaria's nephew is Pee Wee Herman.
That's what I'm saying. Solaria's nephew is Pee Wee Herman.
Wow, what a twist, guys! Pee Wee Herman's on the show.
So that's the third reference to Pee Wee's Playhouse, because we talked about Jambi and Terry, and we also talked about Miss Yvonne. Now we have the man himself, Paul Rubens. And actually playing the boyfriend, the love him or leave him nude artist model named Lou, is Tony Longo. Not with us any longer, passed away in 2015 at age 53. He was in the movie Angels in the Outfield. I know if Greg was here, he would say something because he loves that movie.
Wait, what did you say, guys? You talked about Angels in the Outfield? That's right, Greg. You're talking about Angels in the Outfield. Oh, man, I love that movie. It had freaking Joseph Gordon-Levitt. It had Danny Glover. Hey, guys, did you know that Tony Danza played a character in Angels in the Outfield and it wasn't named Tony?
Did you know Christopher Lloyd was in it?
Yes, I did. How's the show going, guys?
I'm just in shock you appeared out of nowhere.
I'm in the background, guys. You can't see me. I'm like John Cena. I'm wearing a John Cena invisibility cloak.
Gotcha. I see what you're doing there. Episode 35. Madam is paid a visit by her black sheep cousin Charlie, a man who transforms into Betty Davis whenever he hears the word trash. When vacationing Pinkerton returns to the mansion, he falls for Charlie in drag.
Ooh, don't want. G-Man doesn't want that.
Maybe Pinkerton likes those Betty Davis eyes.
Oh, yeah.
Better than the Barbara Streisand's nose.
Yeah, well, you know, he thinks she's a spy because she's got Betty Davis eyes.
G-Man, you would make a good DJ. I like that sound coming from your voice.
Well, you know, I tried to audition for like a top 40 station back in like the early 80s, but they wouldn't accept me. They didn't think I had a good face for radio. I don't know what they meant by that.
Episode 36. Madam Sergeant nephew Lamar is temporarily restationed in Los Angeles, where he commandeers the mansion and puts the family through rigorous basic training. Frankie Avalon guest stars on Madam's show, where he shares his secrets for staying youthful. We know that Frankie Avalon is on this episode, obviously.
You know what my reaction would be if I first saw this episode when it originally aired?
What would that be, G-Man?
Oh, what a night.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
G-Man, it was Frankie Valli that sang Oh What a Night, not Frankie Avalon. This is what happens when I'm not here, guys.
Oh, what a night. G-Man's watching this episode of Madam's Place.
I should have seen that coming from a mile away and I didn't. Oh my gosh. G-Man slipped one right past me. Oh my gosh.
That's why I almost got that job on Top 40 Radio, because I had clever jokes like that.
Episode 37. Madam defies network executives when she hires a handsome but inept new announcer over their more seasoned candidates. Nobody of note, we're going to go to episode 38. Madam invites her second husband and his new fiancée to lunch, then orders William Shatner off the set of her show when the Canadian actor cannot recite the United States Pledge of Allegiance. And yes, that is true. I saw this episode. William Shatner could not recite the Pledge of Allegiance. She had security escort him off the set.
And this man ends up hosting a show about 911.
She has no problem pledging allegiance to the United Federation of Planets, just saying.
In this episode, playing Micheline Juliet, don't know who that is. That might be the new fiance, to be honest, is Julie Payne. May not be a big name or a familiar name, but you would definitely know her because she voices Liz Wilson on Garfield. She's the veterinarian of Garfield and Odie, John's love interest. Not only was she on Garfield and Friends, she reprised the role on The Garfield Show. So she is the vet, Liz Wilson.
Well, she sounds nothing like Jennifer Love Hewitt.
I'm just reporting what I see. Episode 39. Madam hires a bargain basement interior designer who romances Bernadette to get a commercial deal on Madam's show. Playing the interior designer, who goes by the name Bernie of Culver City, Ken Olfson. We've talked about him in the past because he was on Flying High. He was like the main pilot of the plane on Flying High. And I need to add what the design of the house was after Bernie of Culver City did the redesigning. It took on a jungle motif. You had like hay like strewn across the walls. The telephone, the receiver was replaced with what looked like I don't want to say an elephant tusk. It wasn't that big, but it was some sort of tusk of some animal, and very stereotypical Tarzan and Jane type of stuff. And even Pinkerton and Sarah Joy at the end of the episode, they come out wearing their Tarzan and Jane garb. Pinkerton wearing like an over-the-shoulder kind of loincloth toga-ish thing, and Judy Landers wearing this sort of like animal print bikini because she's Judy Landers. Got to get as much mileage as you can out of Judy Landers' sexuality. Episode 40. Believing the mansion is haunted, the household hires a local ghostbuster. Madam hosts comedian George Gobel on her show, and the two compete to see who has the worst memory. Now, this really doesn't sound all that fair, because George Gobel was going downhill at this point. This is 1982. He wasn't on his A game like he was even like 10 years ago. He had health issues. I sort of don't like that comparison. But again, that was 1982. That's not 2023.
I'm surprised he was alive at this point.
He did Match Game Hollywood Squares in 1984.
Oh, yeah. Now I remember. I was surprised he was alive then, too.
Well, I think he lived at like 1990, so he had another almost decade in him. 1991, close enough. Episode 41. Madam continues efforts to banish the ghosts of Groucho and Harpo Marx. Groucho and Harpo Marx are invading Madam's place? Or the ghosts of them are?
Whoa! What? I mean, come on, guys. I mean, wouldn't the ghosts of Groucho and Harpo Marx have better things to do than haunt some wooden puppet's house?
That's what I'm saying. So, going back, Madam continues efforts to banish the ghosts of Groucho and Harpo Marx, whose practical jokes from beyond have the household up in arms. Heartthrob John Schneider promotes his latest film and record album on Madam's show. So obviously, we have John Schneider from Dukes of Hazzard on this episode. Moving on, because neither the Groucho or Harpo Marx ghosts are really anybody. Episode 42. An old flame of Pinkerton's returns after 22 years to disclose they have a son together. What? And comedian Dick Shawn appears as a guest on Madam's show. Hey, playing that person who had the child with Pinkerton, a known name, Ruta Lee.
Oh, God, what hasn't she done?
The legendary Ruta Lee.
She's done everything from several seasons of High Rollers to one episode of Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue. Still active. She has a stage show coming out next month.
Really? Wow. And she's got to be what? Probably in her late 80s now? Looks like, doing some quick math on IMDb, she's 87 and still active. And actually, one book that I want to pick up, she released her autobiography last year. And supposedly, it's a great autobiography.
Read the name of the biography.
Oh, I know what the name of the biography is. Do you really want me to say it on air?
Not if you don't want to. It's your birthday.
So Rudely's biography is titled Consider Your Ass Kissed. That's the name.
Yep.
G-Man digs that, bro.
The G-Man likes getting his ass kissed?
No, G-Man appreciates how Rudely made a clever title. I mean, I gotta respect that.
And also, as I mentioned earlier, Dick Shawn's on this episode. And that takes us to episode 43. Only about 10 more to go. We're almost there, guys. Two teenagers from the Brooklyn chapter of Madam's fan club steal their way into the mansion and then refuse to leave. Comedian Marty Allen appears on Madam's show. Nobody of note going to episode 44. Defeated and disillusioned by her inability to get a role in a major motion picture, Madam decides to retire, throwing her talk show into disarray.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Can't have a Madam's place without a Madam.
Well, like you said earlier in the episode, Chico, we're talking about an old bag. Maybe Hollywood's just a little discriminating.
That's terrible.
No, you shouldn't be discriminating against old people, guys.
I like you, G-Man.
G-Man's got respect for the elderly.
Episode 45. Pinkerton becomes addicted to a television soap opera. Comedian Rip Taylor forces Madam to play straight man to him when he appears on her talk show. Oh, you know it's going to be a good episode when Rip Taylor comes by.
Oh, everybody loves when he throws that confetti. I love it. G-Man digs the confetti.
And we actually have a name playing another guest on the talk show. She's not given a name. She's called Beaver Advocate. Beaver Advocate.
Wait, you tell me like that's her actual name? Beaver Advocate.
Well, no, that's not her actual name. She's sort of like one of those, I don't want to say naturalist people or PETA people, but you know, she's an activist for beavers. Does that make sense to you there, G-Man?
Yes, I completely understand that. So what you're saying is she's a advocate for Jerry Mavers?
Yeah, she's an advocate for Jerry Mathers. We'll keep it at that.
Okay.
Playing that Beaver Advocate, or Jerry Mathers advocate, as G-Man wants to believe, is Andy Matheny. If you remember the show Quick Wits from about 27 years ago, sort of like Whose Line Is It Anyway, before Whose Line Is It Anyway was on American soil, she hosted that.
Yeah, it's like somebody in Chicago was looking at Whose Line Is It Anyway. They couldn't get the rights to Whose Line, so they just said, gonna make my own Whose Line.
With blackjack and hookers.
And Wayne Brady.
And Jonathan Mangum.
And Jack McBrayer. Yeah, a lot of quality names in that cast. Episode 46. Sarah Joy is hypnotized into becoming more assertive, which turns her into a completely different person. Arsenio Hall appears on Madam's show. And this makes sense because Madam was an occasional character that appeared on Solid Gold. And where would Arsenio Hall have been in 1982? On Solid Gold. There you go. Episode 47. When a fan letter berates her physical appearance, Madam hires a makeover consultant who prescribes a complete overhaul. Comedian Fred Travellina guest stars on Madam's show. So we know Fred Travellina's on here, but we got a name playing the makeover consultant named Rhoda Royale. Fern Fitzgerald. Do I really, guys? Dallas?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And she was also on, I believe, 2 weeks of Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour. Episode 48. The household goes to extremes to raise funds when the media reports that Madam is bankrupt. Comedian Scatman Crothers guest stars on Madam's talk show. So obviously we have Scatman Crothers on this. But she's going bankrupt. What's going to happen to the mansion? What's going to happen to the talk show?
What's going to happen to Pinkerton?
What's going to happen to Sarah Joy? Seriously. Maybe she'll actually have to wear clothes. I'm sorry. Episode 49. This one's a bizarre episode. I think I said earlier that some of these get like sort of out of left field. This is an episode that's out of left field. And when you hear the description, maybe you can make a tie to something that was very popular in 1982. An extraterrestrial steals into the mansion with the objective of melding with Madam so he can bring comedy back to his planet. Does this look like anything?
One or two episodes of Doctor Who, perhaps the entire run of Alf.
I was talking about a certain movie in 1982.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. An extraterrestrial goes to Madam's place. Boy, what was the big movie in 1982? Just saying. And the worst video game of 1983. Also just saying that too.
Oh yeah, the G-Man, he did not like that Atari 2600 game. It sucked.
It was not a good game.
No.
Episode 50, a bumbling inspector takes charge after Madam's iconic life-size portrait is stolen. We have a name for the inspector. Oh, and remember, it's a bumbling inspector. So when you hear of bumbling inspector, you think of Inspector Clouseau. Well, in this episode, he's called Inspector Putzo or Putzo.
Because he's a putz.
Because he's a putz, exactly. Played by Vito Scotti. He was in Get Shorty. He was in The Godfather. He played a stereotypical Italian cat in one of my favorite Disney movies, The Aristocats. He was basically, again, stereotyping, but also typecasting at the same time. He was that Italian guy from that TV show or that movie. No longer with us, passed away in 1996. Episode 51. While Pinkerton is on vacation, his twin brother, an uncultivated biker named Chopper, drops in to pay his respects. Actor-singer Jerry Reed guest stars on Madam's Place. The twin brother was actually played by Johnny Hamer, so he played two roles. He played Chopper and he played Pinkerton. Episode 52. And there's actually a name on this episode. Madam gets audited by the IRS. I wonder what happens. Madam is audited by the Internal Revenue Service, which becomes sticky when Mr. Honest shows up to throw light on every white lie she tells. Madam's a liar? What?
I'm shocked.
I'm shocked too. She sounds like such an upstanding citizen.
Nobody of note in this episode. Going to episode 53. Mr. Honest seeks Madam's help in ferreting out the identity of his secret admirer. Comedian Alice Ghostly visits Madam's show, revealing their long-standing rivalry after decades of competing for the same roles. Obviously, Alice Ghostly is herself in this episode. Episode 54. Feeling his midlife crunch, Pinkerton accepts an offer to train an up-and-coming female prize fighter. And playing the prize fighter Kid Kelly is Donna Pontoretto. Not really known for much of anything. She's had occasional roles for many, many years, but has not been on many episodes of a singular TV show. And then episode 55, this is where it gets a little kind of weird. The reason I say that, we don't have a capsule for this, but it is available online. Presuming it's episode 55, the last episode, there's no other ones missing or anything like that. What happened in this episode is a vampire wanted to be a guest on Madam's place. And he would do anything to be on the show. And actually, since he's a vampire, he sucked the blood out of Madam.
What?
He's a vampire. He sucked the... Well, I know, it's a puppet, but he sucked the blood out of Madam.
Well, how is that scientifically possible?
This is fiction, G-Man. Don't ask me these really tough questions this
Look,
late at night.
G-Man just wants to get some logic. How can a puppet have blood?
Now, I get that. Well, maybe the blood is maple syrup. I don't know. So Madam, after she's bit, she becomes pale. Like he sucked all the blood out of her. She's almost like gray in color for most of this episode after the vampire sucks the blood out of her. He gets on the show and actually does some performing, does a song. And also in this episode, in the Madam's Place segment, Hall of Fame candidate. This is a person whose resume is saying he may be in the Hall sooner rather than later. Carl Ballantine, who we talked about on 1 in a Million. Basically, again, typecasting him as a magician in many of the shows that he was on. And believe it or not, on Madam's Place, he was doing magic. But the bigger name is the vampire. Playing the vampire, Bill Kirchenbauer from Just the 10 of Us.
Yeah, I can totally see that. I could see him as a vampire. I could see him as one of those vampires who hosts the late night movie Scream shows, but I totally see him as a vampire.
And the crazy thing is, neither Carl Ballantyne's IMDb nor Bill Kirchenbauer's IMDb mention this episode. So is it lost? Well, I don't know if it's necessarily lost because Bill Kirchenbauer actually uploaded on his YouTube channel this episode, but it's not part of the episode guide. So maybe it was skipped by USA when they did reruns or something. I don't know. So what happened to the show? I think one big thing, first off, this was a late night TV show. Even though, as I mentioned at the start of the show, back in the day, USA reran this at like 11:30 in the morning, back around 1986. And amazingly enough, this reran on USA as late as 1990. It reran at like 2 in the morning, but it was still airing on USA as late as 1990. Taking a look at local listings and listings elsewhere, this show tended to air after the news. 11:30, midnight. Looked like on WOR in New York, it aired like about 10 o'clock. So yeah, this definitely is not a show for the kids. This is one for the adults, even though, again, a puppet is the main character, not a cutesy-wootsy puppet. Obviously, it just didn't take off. But also, at the same time, if it's airing at the 11:30 slot, what's it going up against?
The Tonight Show.
That's all you need to say right there. That's the only answer I was looking for. I mean, it may have been going up against, like, Thick of the Night or some other late-night talk shows, whatever ABC had at that point. It would have had Fridays at that point, obviously. So, yeah, it was probably dead in the water. And we got apparently about 11 weeks of episodes out of it. But it did have longevity. Like I said, it aired for some time on USA. Well, every episode presumably is on YouTube because some intrepid viewer back in 1989, 1990 recorded apparently almost every episode of Madam's Place. There appear to be 2 episodes this person didn't record. One is the Bill Kirchenbauer vampire episode, the last one I talked about. And the second one, and Greg would appreciate this if he was still in the building, he apparently didn't get the episode where
Mr. Black
was a guest. But he had every other episode minus episode 14 and minus whatever number episode the vampire episode was, if that was 55 or somewhere else in the mix. And I mentioned last week that we'd be mentioning the name Brad Lockman. We talked about Brad Lockman being a very prolific producer and also the son of Mort Lockman. This was one of his first TV shows under his production company.
Which actually makes sense if you think about it, because didn't he also do the latter seasons of Solid Gold?
He did Solid Gold, yes. Well, and again, there's the connection between Madam and Arsenio Hall, and it's all intertwining together beautifully, yes. But he's done many things. I mentioned a lot of those World's Most Outrageous, whatever it is that Fox used to air back in the day. The news outtakes, the funniest animals, when animals attack. Yeah, all that sort of reality-ish TV stuff that aired on Fox back in the late 90s and early 2000s. But yeah, that's just about it for this show. 55 episodes, didn't last that long. They tried. Maybe it was a little too racy for TV, especially in 1982. And in the end, Madam's Place, sadly, it just became a thing on TV.
Well, Mike, I have to hand it to you. That was loads better than the Hudson Brothers Razzle Dazzle comedy show.
So I'm 1 for 3.
1.5. I liked You Don't Know Jack.
So I'm batting 500. Okay, good. That gets me in the Hall of Fame of baseball. So good. I don't know if Greg would agree with you, but I think we definitely have at least a 333 batting average.
A 333 batting average will still get you some Hall of Fame votes.
No, it'll get you in the Hall of Fame. G-Man, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, guys, I hate to interrupt you, but my pager's going off. I gotta leave now.
Oh, no.
Oh, man.
Oh,
Man.
my God. I wish I would have stayed with you guys, but you know what? I'm getting paged. I gotta go. I got my 90s beeper here. You know, everybody I know has these 90s beepers, right?
Yeah.
Just nod your head, Chico. Just nod your head. Yeah, okay.
All right, well, I gotta go, guys. It was nice talking to you guys, and I hope I'll see you guys again soon.
Hey, you know where we are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
We're not going anywhere.
Okay, cool. All right, see you later, guys.
All right, G-Man.
All right, see you, G-Man. What the hell just happened? I will ask the question again. What the hell just happened?
Hey, guys. Are we doing recurring character night? No, get out of here, Whammy.
Oh, boy.
Well, that's my money in the bank. Just off the rails a little bit tonight. We'll try better next episode. Or what you can do is you can go to our website where you can listen to the previous 353 episodes at itwasathingontv.com. We have all our episodes there. We have our live shows. We have our mini-sodes. We have everything. The Presents episodes. Plenty of stuff to listen to. We're really coming close to like 500 total episodes. We're almost halfway to 1,000. I think that's absolutely amazing. And next week, we're not going to add one show to that total, or 2 shows, or even 3 shows. We're going to do 4 shows. Next week, we're going to talk about a number of shows that were revived. One based on a 60s pop culture classic. One spin-off of a 90s, 2000s TV show that just didn't hold up as well as the original show. And then we have a live show. Chico and Greg, if he returns, they're going to talk about the new season of The Mandalorian, the season 3 premiere.
Yep, that drops on Disney Plus March 1st, by the way.
So that'll actually be out by the time you hear this, since this will be released on the 2nd.
Hey guys, I'm back.
Hey, we were just talking about watching The Mandalorian live.
Oh, cool. How'd the G-Man do while I was gone?
He was adequate.
Just don't ask him about his opinion on the old Love American style. Just don't. Just trust me on this.
Okay, well. All right, I'll take your word for it. You gotta love his 90s beeper, though.
Is it the Kelly Rowland beeper that has Microsoft Excel on it?
Not quite, but I wish it was.
And also next week, besides the live show for The Mandalorian Season 3 premiere and the 2 new shows, we're going to be doing the 2nd annual installment of a certain event. I don't want to give it away, but some of the names you heard in this episode, they're going to be enshrined. And it isn't just on this episode. Like, throughout the course of the 3.5 years of shows we've done, we've mentioned plenty of names. Some have been enshrined. Some are going to be enshrined soon. Some may be enshrined in future years. That's enough of a hint as to what is going to be coming up next week. In the meantime, don't forget, we're on YouTube at It Was a Thing on TV. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit that notification bell to stay updated with all our updates. And also, we're creating custom playlists. And Greg, you just added one a couple of days ago, right?
Yeah, that's right. I made a custom playlist of animal-themed episodes we've done on this podcast.
Oh, good. So we can re-listen to Meow Manor, Gary Busey, Pit Justice. Well, Pet Judge, but Pit Justice.
Yeah.
Greg the Bunny.
Greg the Bunny and...
Oh, yeah.
And Mr. Smith, we will have our discussion about Bobo.
And, of course, as we mentioned last week, we're revisiting Mr. Smith this fall.
Yes.
That's going to be a great episode. I've seen some of the episodes on there. Oh, yeah. This is definitely worthy of being revisited.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait to talk about Mr. Smith Rescues Bobo.
That's a great episode. That's worth the price of admission right there. Also, don't forget, we're on the socials, not just YouTube. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram at It Was a Thing on TV. On Facebook, we're at It Was a Thing on TV podcast. Don't forget, if you do any sort of reviews, if you like us, give us 5 stars, positive vibes. We appreciate your support of the podcast. With that, I think we're going to close the book on my Money in the Bank pick. Thank you for listening. Thank you to Chico. Thank you to the G-Man. Thank you for returning, Greg. And thank you for listening. We will see you next time with plenty of good stuff right here on It Was a Thing on TV. Take care. Have a great rest of your week.
Roll us out, Greg.
Wow! G-Man in the house!
Get ready for the funniest, most outrageous new show of the year.
Welcome to Catastrophe.
She's Hollywood's hottest hysterical star.
The best of me is still waiting for Burt Reynolds.
With an absolutely devoted following.
Look here, this is your moon. A chance to see my own moon. Really, Stellaria, I want to see what's ahead, not what's behind.
Starting in September, everyone will be watching Madam's Place.